I mean, that's really going on.
2024. It is Irmo at Dutch Fork.
A lot of people are talking about this year, and I don't know again where my fellow.
Okay, you got a gold record back there behind you too. Okay, what you? Oh wow!
It's heavy.
GamecockCentral.com. That's still home base.
My hidden talent is I'm a pretty good ping pong player, man. I'll just throw that one out at you right now.
Okay, I'll take some of that.
But we also have a lot of talent too. So, I mean, they're young and they're inexperienced.
Coach of the 2024 4A Boys State Championship.
What's up, fellas? We live.
What's going on?
What's up?
I see everybody's in there. Everybody's in the house, right?
Yo.
Hey, we're live right now, so whatever you say is being shared with everybody, all our millions of listeners.
I'm on my best behavior.
I'm always on my best behavior. Just ask around.
We got
off-camera conversations are a better show anyway, though.
Chris Deering just got off the plane from China, man. That man is in China. Like, were you in mainland China?
Yeah, I was in Shenzhen for
wow.
8 days. I guess it was 8 days.
Man, you're a brave man.
Hey.
It's all right. All right, you guys have a good one, man.
All right, we live. You're live, ready to go? Check. Everybody good?
Yeah, y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Let's get it. Welcome in. Timeout Convos, brought to you by HoughNation Sports. I am Stacey Huff. This is on the Lost Lemon platform. I am thrilled, tickle pink, exuberant, excited, if you will, to be joined by 3 stalwarts of high school sports coverage here in the state of South Carolina. Chris Deering, venerable sports writer, been around a long time. Tyler Cup, radio, TV broadcaster, and Thomas Grant, gentleman who's written for many periodicals, papers and websites around, and we'll let you guys plug your stuff before the show's over. But glad to have all of you guys in to share a little conversation. We've had an interesting season here in 2024. We talked at the beginning of the season, toward the beginning, and we've had a lot of happenings. The weather has entered the chat since we last spoke, and because of that, the season extended an extra week. So last week was the extra finale. I think there's still a hearing to take place tomorrow at 2:00. They may affect some seatings. But other than that, the hay is pretty much in the barn. So before we get to the round table and we're just all chopping it up, willy-nilly as we will, I'm an opening comment a piece, and we'll begin with on my screen clockwise. It is Chris Deering. Chris, your overarching thoughts of the 2024 season as you've seen it play out. Chris Deering,
I think a lot of it is played out like, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. So I think it's played out a lot like a lot of us expected. Dutch Fork's right there in 5A. Irmo, Dutch Fork played Friday, was a fantastic game. I know you were there, Stacy. 4A, West Side's still there. 1A, you're looking at Abbeville. But there have been some surprises along the way that maybe we didn't know about, and that's always special when you get those type of things. So
we're going to get to those. We're going to get to those too in a moment.
Exactly. Yeah. So looking forward to these playoffs. We get started Friday night. I've got a whole host of games all across the state. Looking forward to those games. I was actually sitting here before we started trying to figure out which game I was going to on Friday. So just can't wait to get it started.
Well said. Tyler, a couple of thoughts. Give you your overarching thoughts about 2024, and then we're going to break down. Tyler, before you go, we're going to break down 1 up to 5A and give our picks, contenders, and maybe some matchups along the way that might intrigue us. Tyler, your thoughts on 2024?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that comes to mind is how realignment kind of reshaped this season in terms of some of the 2A schools going down to 1A, some of the 2As going up to 4A, and how those teams kind of competed throughout the year. But to Chris Deering's point, absolutely agree. We expected West Side to be here. We expected South Point to be here. For us up here in the Rock Hill area, we expected Northwestern to be undefeated and to be a top seed, as goes with the Dutch Forks and the Irmos. How about the senior class of quarterbacks? I mean, I knew going in it was going to be special, but boy, they put up some great numbers throughout the year. And I think my thing is a lot of the teams we thought would be here, great. Some surprises, yes. But I think it was interesting to see how some of the teams after the realignment and the how teams played up from 2A to 4A, and some teams going down, Abbeville going to 1A, and how that's kind of shaped out.
Thomas Grant, your thoughts on 2024 overall?
The way it looks so far,
We seem to have a bad connection.
Can you hear me? It almost comes off like it's been almost, you can have a case of where there's not really a middle ground, you could say, when it comes to high school football right now, because you have, of course, your top teams, your teams that have been dominant, like you mentioned, the Dutch Forks, Northwesterns, the West Sides. You go further down into the classifications. The Abbeville is probably one of the biggest surprises in the lower classifications will probably be Batesburg, Leesville going undefeated. In a conference that has three strong teams, three teams you can say could make a good run in that particular classification. But at the same time, you have quite a few teams that have either fallen on some hard.
Got a little bit of a connection issue there with Thomas. Thomas got a little bit of try to move around a little bit. Thomas, we're going to come back to you in a moment. It's a little bit of an echo, like a little bit of a barrel right there. But let's go back. Let's broaden it back out again. So we'll give a moment for Thomas to get us. That's a little better. Yeah, Thomas. Let me jump in right here and say this. We're going 1 through 5. So this is Timeout Convos, brought to you by HoughNation Sports under the Lost Lemon platform. Shout out to my guy Todd. Shout out to all the people making it happen here with this website, and thank you all for tuning in. It's been an interesting season. You heard a little bit of the thoughts here, but we're going to get into what some of you guys are already touching on a little bit. We're going to give them the whole show. We don't give it all to them in the first 5 minutes, but let's walk it up, if you will. I think Abbeville has been mentioned, so we'll begin with 1A, and then we get to the thing I don't like, the splitting of 5A, but nobody asked me. I promise you, they have not asked me before. No will they? But let's start with 1A. It's always been Abbeville, but I heard Louisville mentioned. I think, Chris, you and I were on radio Saturday. I think you might have mentioned Louisville. We want drama. In sports, we want drama. That's your area, Charles. So I'm coming to you second on that. We're going to give it we'll throw it out to open discussion right now. 1A, anybody got some thoughts? And kind of indicate when you want to talk so we don't talk over each other. I'll try to moderate the best I can, but we know about Abbeville. Somebody talk about Abbeville first, and then Tyler, I know you want to talk about Louisville. Abbeville.
Abbeville is Abbeville this year. I mean, the only loss they have is to Batesburg Leesville earlier in the year. I think that was sort of a wake-up call for those guys, too. Obviously, it was a 2A school, but I think it was a wake-up call and sort of reset their focus a little bit. But, you're looking at the brackets, and I think the Class A upper state's a little bit tougher than the lower state. You got Abbeville, you got Louisville, you got Lamar, you got HKT, you got Blackfield Hilda. All those teams are pretty good. They've been good all season long. But I looking at it, there's hard for me to say there's going to be a way that we don't see Abbeville and Louisville in the Class A upper state championship game. And then you look at the lower part, you got a cross team that's shutting everybody out. Yeah. They might not play the toughest schedule. Yeah. Hannah Pamplico has played well, Lakeview, Branchville. So you got a couple teams in the lower state that's probably have a chance to make it as well. But I think the upper state's really a gauntlet. Starting in round 2, this could be tough every week.
Thomas, jump in here. I want to say Tyler for last on this because I got some specific Louisville questions. Thomas, your thoughts on 1A? I mean, everybody thinks Abbeville, but Chris mentioned some possible contenders. Who do you think, if not just a cakewalk for Abbeville, who gives them a little pause?
Well, you look potentially towards third round. I mean, you talked about Abbeville and Louisville, but then one team you could say is probably a sleeper of that group is Hunter Kennard Tyler. This is a team that was 9-1 this year. This is a very talented squad coached by former South Carolina State standout Jermaine Derricott. This is a team that has players that have guys like a Darius Stroman who could make plays when they have the ball. I mean, they're very athletic, they're very physical, and ironically, they could potentially face a Louisville in the third round, and that's their only loss this year was against Louisville. So I think between those two, you would probably see one of those two teams would have to play Abbeville to get to the final.
And that's that road thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Thomas. Go ahead.
Yeah, so but the way it looks to me, seem like whoever comes out of the upper stage is going to be the favorite going into the final.
Tyler, Louisville they have a tradition. They've turned out some D1s. They've had a run. They've been quiet a little bit. In that area that's getting really, really heavy with football dominance up there, how has Louisville just managed to amass enough talent? Is it one of those things, Tyler, where these had a special class of seniors that kind of gelled at the right time, or they just got to think they may be able to sustain? How do you see it?
I'm actually going to give credit to a guy that's actually no longer there, but he kind of started it, and that was Leon Bulware, who's now at Lugolf Elgin. He started basically getting more participation than what is normally garnered at Louisville, and it's one of the deepest teams in Class 1A. And I'm going to go back to my good friend Demetrius Davis, coach of the Fairfield Central Griffins, who's having a great year as well. And when he beat Louisville, which is the only loss that Louisville has this year, and it's the only time they gave up more than 20 points in a game, Demetrius told me this team, even though we beat them 33-8, they will make a run in Class 1A. And Trent Usher, who has taken over for Leon Bulware, has done a phenomenal job of keeping that participation up. They're not playing as many guys both ways, which is a thing we know in Class 1A, right? Guys are playing both ways all the time. But in 1A, they're deeper there with the Louisville Lions, and that is what has led to a lot of their success. So give credit to Leon, and Trent Usher has kind of carried things over there. I thought they made a great hire with him because he was with Leon the last 3-4 years, and they did a good job of keeping him. So Louisville and Abbeville, I agree with what all the guys said. I think the champions coming out of the upper state.
Listen, I never miss a chance, folks, to make a Chesterfield County connection. So let allow me for a moment. Trent Usher is the son of Al Usher, who's a longtime Central Pageland coach, Coach Corey Miller. Unfortunately, I played against those teams that were very dominant back in the day, but that's Al Usher's son. Trent Usher was originally recruited to the University of South Carolina. He's one of those players that Steve Spurrier kind of got in here and looked around and let some people release some people. And I think he went and finished down at Coastal or somewhere else, or Charleston Southern. But Trent Usher's a Chesterfield County product, by the way, up there. But you're right. Leon Bulware, who says very flattering things about you, Tyler Cup, by the way. Did the Lugolf Elgin Spring Valley game a couple weeks ago. So he did start it. Louisville is rolling now. So we all agree that it's Abbeville. It is the upstate that's going to be dominant. And Louisville is a team that could be sneaky good, and they may have lightning in a bottle. If not this year, I think we agree they might have it clicking where they may have some sustainability there. So those are some names to look at. Now let's walk it up, if you would, please and thank you, to the 2A region. And you can just jump in anywhere. Who wants to jump in and give me first the team to beat in 2A?
Well, if you look at the bracket initially, once again, pointing towards the upstate, I look at a couple of teams that would probably have a shot. I think one would be Clinton. This was a team that, when the season, they had an early loss in the season and sort of lost some luster, but since then, they've been a different animal. And then, of course, with Batesburg-Leesville, just what they've been doing, not only just the way they've been winning, just defensively. That's been probably one of the most impressive parts of that team. So, and they could potentially end up having a matchup either in the third round or possibly in the upper state final. So when you look at the 2A and upper state, I'd have to start there.
Yeah, somebody said it might have been one of you guys as well. Could have been one of you three. Could have been Chris or Todd as well. One of the earliest shows I heard Clinton mention early in the season, saying they may be a team that, with all the Dutch Fork talk and all the talk around the Northwesterns and all these talk, that Clinton was a team from that part of the state that might rise up and grab that 2A. So, what about?
I'm gonna give you a note about them real quick,
Go
Stacey.
ahead.
I was talking to a high school coach last week that was looking at some film from Clinton, and they said their offensive line might be one of the most dominant they've seen in a long time, especially on the 2A level. So that's something to look forward to going into the playoffs. And like Thomas mentioned, potential third round matchup against Batesburg-Leesville, that would be huge if that comes to play. And again, Clinton's they had that early loss, but they've rebounded well, and they're playing at a high level right now.
Yeah, I was robbed of my chance to see Batesburg-Leesville and to see my buddy Birch Antley. Birch has sent me his notes. Birch sent me, Birch, he was in touch with me. He reached out and he sent me oodles. It's a joke, right? Oodles and oodles of information. He texted. I was like, "Who's this number?" Because it's a different number. And he called me. He texted. He emailed me. Hey, and we didn't get to do the game because that was the Helene. That was Hurricane Helene. They stopped the game. So they played that game on a Wednesday, and we couldn't put a TV production together in time. So that was one of the 2 weeks we got off the season. Usually we had 11 straight weeks, but that game, Mid Carolina, and they blitzed Mid Carolina. But that was going to be my chance to see Batesburg-Leedsville because I had been told, you guys had told me they were going to be good. Bircher told me they were going to be good. And they're doing some pretty big things up in the Twin Cities, but we could not. And I was prepared. Bircher had me ready. I was ready for the broadcast. But, they played. That was a Wednesday game when they blitzed Mid Carolina. And I saw then Mid Carolina's not that bad a team for them to beat them like as bad as they did. So that may be a team that can rise up and get Clinton. But both of those, now y'all help me. Are both of those going to be in the upstate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So who from so that begs the question. Who from the lower state can contend with whoever comes out of those two?
Wait a minute.
Now, the lower state, you have the top seed is Barnwell. Barnwell quietly.
The Warhorses.
Yeah. Yes. Cameron Austin, who was a USC baseball commit until he decommitted, but he's a guy who's a dual threat quarterback, a guy who mostly doesn't. He's effective, just as much effective running the ball as he is throwing the fast. They also have a couple of guys like a Nehemiah Peoples. Nehemiah Brown. Who's also an effective running back. They're really a very physical team. But you look at the lower state, the thing is potentially they could have a challenge in the second round with a very improved Timberland team that's coached by former Swansea coach Greg Wright.
Yes.
So then you also have Manning also in the lower state, and then Hampton County. The funny thing about it is, this will be their first game in about 2 or 3 weeks when they start the playoffs. So you talked about some of the factors of this year. You've had several teams that have had like gaps in between their schedules. They haven't really had that much consistency playing on a week to week to week. You have one team will play 1 week, and then you have, of course, the opposite with the Aiken schools where they had to play 4 games in about 3 weeks. Right. So it's just going to be interesting with the lower state. I think it's really one of those things where a lot of teams are going to be bumping each other off, and you just have to see who's going to be there to get to the final.
Right now, I think we all would, if we had gun to our head, and that's a bad analogy these days, but if we had to pick a team 1A, we say Abbeville. If we have to right now, give me 3 answers. I'll say Clinton. What do you say, Chris Daring? Give me one word answer. Who wins 3A? 2A.
One word answer. I'm gonna pull a surprise here. Fairfield Central.
Love it. Dr. J.R. Green, Dr. Green, Demetrius Davis, my boy Dr. Green, my line brother, my fraternity brother, my neighbor up the road, former superintendent Demetrius. That's great. Who you got, Tyler?
All right, so giving love to Fairfield Central as well. I think that's a great first-round matchup, by the way. The Griffins against Chesterfield. Matt Quinn has had a great year in his first year there with Chesterfield.
Wait a minute, stop. Who?
Matt Quinn.
Where?
Chesterfield. There's Rams. And I'm going to give you a sleeper in the lower state. Sleeper. Sherall Braves. Sherall's had a great year.
You ruined it.
Came out of a really good region. Watch out for Sherall in the lower state.
I have a good buddy of mine whose son is the Gordon kid, the wide receiver that he's got interest from Shane Beamer and Daniel Sweeney. He's a 10th grade wide receiver. He's got some interest because of camp performance. He's a wide receiver. He's one of my guys I came up with through playing baseball with back in the day. It's his son. Thomas Grant, who you got? We have a Fairfield Central. We have a Sherall surprise. What name you got that will pop out from 2A?
Well, just keep it up with his opposite thing. I probably have to stick with Batesburg. The last time they were undefeated during the regular season, they ended up winning it all. Before that, when they were undefeated, they ended up losing in the finals. So, the way the season is gone right now and the way the schedule sort of may set up, it's sort of one of those cases where there's a team that's on a run right now. And then you look at even last Friday's game, the way they won that was sort of like improbable. Sometimes a team just gets on momentum and it just continues. So, I'm just going with Batesburg just mostly because of the momentum they've been building through the season.
Those are all great answers. I went with chalk because y'all know it better than me. And when you don't know as much, you sometimes go with chalk. I will say this for full transparency: the Sherall Braves did smash my Rams a couple of weeks ago. And that's a game where everybody, nobody's at home. Everybody's at the game. Standing room only, every sport. and that's how it is. So my dad, the older folk from every age group there at the game. And we thought we had a chance this year, but Sherall said, no, thank you. We're going to go ahead and get it again. So shout out to them and everybody up in that area. But Matt Quinn really, in his first year, has done wonders for my Rams team. So that's 2A. Let's go to 3A real quickly. There's a little more intrigue here, I think, because we have a new school in the conversation, correct? Are they the favorites from Middle State?
In my mind, they're the favorite, yes. they've not had to play a full 4 quarters many times this year, and I think that's going to pay off in the playoffs. But MVP, Mountain View Prep, they have a host of talent on that team, and on our website Prep Red Zone, we do in the top 30 semifinals for Player of the Year, and I was sort of a proponent of not putting more than one player from a team on the semifinals.
They left you no choice,
and it was tough with MVP. Man, it was tough to figure out which one to put on there.
Deep like that?
They're deep like that. Yes. Look at their scores.
They're the Spartanburg County All-Stars. Spartanburg County All-Stars, MVP.
I knew Tyler would say it. I knew Tyler was waiting.
I'll say it.
Tyler, it was more than Spartanburg County, I think. I mean, don't get me wrong there. But yeah, they're really very talented. I think the only game they've really been challenged in this year is against Woodruff, and that's a team I could see definitely making a run and making some noise in the playoffs. But if I got to pick right now, I'm going with MVP. And I've had them in our prep writers poll. I've had them number 1 for a number of weeks now. I think everybody else has finally joined the bandwagon, but I've been there for a long time.
Thomas, that's upstate. Who comes from the lower state? If you don't like Mountain Prep upstate, let us know. But if you like Mountain View Prep from the upstate, who you like in the lower state to challenge them?
Well, that's easy. That's an easy one. Just go with the sister school. I mean, I would go right with the sister school, and that would be Oceanside Collegiate. I mean, this is a team. You look at how they started this year. I mean, you look at the first 5 games that they had. They started with Irma, who finished 9-1. They then faced Calgary Day out of Georgia, who finished 9-2.
Yeah.
They then played Savannah Christian, they played Ashley Ridge, who was a 7-3 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then the next week they played Savannah Christian, who's 9-2. And then they closed that 5 game stretch and said it wasn't tough enough. Well, now you're going to play Dutch Fork. So those first 5 games alone, they were able to get through that, and they haven't lost a game since. In fact, in their region play, they've won their games by an average of 40 points. And you look at this team, this was a team that went on a run. They had the quarterback, Aiden Manaverin, who was the former wide receiver, but he was brought in to start the playoffs after the starter got hurt, and he basically got him on that run that got him to the state championship. They also have a lot of those returning receivers. They also have a guy in his first year varsity in Terrence Johnson, who's really a playmaker. This is a guy who makes plays at wide receiver, running back, and also is a dangerous kick returner. So you look at the lower state, Oceanside, even though they're the 2nd seed in the lower state, I think they're a team that's sort of poised to make another run to get back to Orangeburg.
Well, Chris, Tyler, you spoke about Spartanburg County All-Stars. So Oceanside might be the Charleston County version. But so a little this and a little of that, a little some of these. So, Chris, your thoughts on how is there a lot of kickback? Is there still a lot of kickback? Because last year I broadcast the Gray Oceanside championship game, and a lot of people we don't care. We know what it is, so we don't really the interest. It's some of the interest wasn't the same for that game, to be really honest with, as far as buzz, because people we just don't. We're not feeling it. Do you feel the kickback because of these two? If those 2 teams meet again, would it be like a ho hum? We know why you're here type vibe to that championship game?
I think so, Stacey, and I think that one of the reasons for that is that these schools are new. They are all-star teams, and they don't have any
alumni. Right.
So there's not a lot of buzz. A lot of people, if Chesterfield makes it, what you could do?
I'm going. If I ain't broadcast, if I'm not, I'm going to be there whether I'm broadcasting or not. I'll be there. Exactly. I'll pay to go. Right.
If Berkeley's there, I'm there. I mean, it's just what it is. And these schools don't have that, so I don't think the buzz is going to be there. But I do think that's what we're heading towards. Like Thomas said, I think there might be an MVP Oceanside final, and that'll be interesting to see. People. I mean. They move these teams up in classification, and this is what people were complaining about.
And they still win.
We'll see how it plays out now that they're moved up to 3A and they're still winning and they're still playing for state championships.
So give me some challenge. If that's not the matchup, who can upend Oceanside in the lower state, and who can upend Mountain View Prep in the upper state? Is that who is this? What is the potential stumbling block? Is there one? Okay, who you got? What say? You go in and out a little bit, Tyler. You go in and out a little bit, Tyler. We can't hear. little bit of audio issues, Tyler. Yeah. Say it again. I think we might have lost you there. Am I the only one that can't hear?
Yeah, I couldn't hear him either.
Yeah. So we come back
But
to Tyler.
I'm gonna go with the team while we're waiting to get Tyler back. And I've seen this team, and I like Newberry. The Newberry Bulldogs are really good, deep and talented. They decided on a quarterback in Kenton Caldwell, and he's really excelled.
Yeah.
They were playing too early in the season, and man, he's got playmakers all over the field, and that defense is really good too.
They are.
Looking forward to Newberry and maybe Oceanside in the third round.
I had them against Fairfield Central, as a matter of fact. And Fairfield Central beat them, but it was a very physical game. The big 6'4" wide receiver that's committed to South Carolina was in that game, and that was the first game I think they went the whole game with Kenton Caldwell. But leading into that game, our notes and everything, we were told they were going to play both quarterbacks. And that game, the other quarterback got not one snap. Tyler, your last thoughts, we couldn't catch you, man. So if you want to, you would say.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say the Newberry Bulldogs, first region win for them since like 2016. Had a great year. I try to follow them. You know, this is a team that when it gets into the playoffs, they always seem to run the football really well and play good physical football. That could be a team that could upend somebody in the lower state.
Let me reset. Right. Go ahead.
One thing also, one other team we didn't even mention the top seed, which is Loris. I mean, this is a team that's really had a very excellent season, and they have a first round bye, so their road sort of gets shorter for most other teams. And the way their bracket is set up, I mean, it's easy to see them getting to the lower state final to take on Oceanside or maybe a Newberry.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point, and that we may be motivating them right now. They want to go. You know, when you're number one seed and not getting mentioned, you want to go in like a lamb and out like a lion, right? So they want to ease in and maybe roar their way out of there. But that's a Loris team down by the beach. We had a kid by the name of Ben McCullough back in the day. Big Ben McCullough played at Clemson back in the day from Loris High School back in the 80s. I remember that name. But let me pause right here and do a professional reset. Y'all like that reset? Please check out the Twitter handles for everyone here, folks. I'm talking to Tyler Cup. You see his Twitter handle on the screen right now. Chris Deering, Prep Red Zone. And, of course, Thomas Grant, Prep Red Zone. Tyler Cup works out of the matter of fact, right now at this point, y'all go ahead and plug what you do. Tyler, we'll be giving to each other, folks, how they can follow your work and what you do.
Yeah, I work up at the radio station in Rock Hill, WRHI. We have Interstate 107 and the 90s on 94.3 along with 104.1 The Bridge, but our flagship's RHI. We cover the Tri-County of York County, Lancaster County, and Chester County. So a lot of teams to keep track of, but a lot of good programs, not just in football, but also basketball and some other sports as well. So that's how you can find me.
And Thomas Alonzo, I know you Prep Red Zone, but you do a lot of other things too, as well as Chris. What are some things you do also?
Well, my handle will be Junebug New York, but it's also you can catch me not only in Prep Red Zone, but also with Irmo News, Lake Murray News, Northeast News, and also Chapin News, and also West Columbia Casey West Columbia News as well. All of them owned by Irmo News. So a lot of teams that we cover within Lexington County and also Northeast as well.
Christopher Deering.
Yes, sir. C Deering 82. Prep Red Zone is the main avenue right now. You know, still do a little bit with the state here and there. And happy to be back. Apparently coming in January, hopefully, if everything works out well, back on the TV broadcast with you, Stacy, on the basketball. So looking forward to that. You know, just whatever I can do to stay around. People just keep trying to hang around as long as I can.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. There's no doubt about it. We've all been in this thing a long time. I hope we all continue to do it. It's a labor of love. It's a labor of love. We all do it because we love it and enjoy uplifting these outstanding scholar athletes. So that being said, that was my little reset for the moment. We'll chop it up about some other things at the very end. These are very interesting gentlemen we have here. Glad to have you guys spending some time with us. I'm glad for everyone who's watching, and we're watching right now. I got to pause at this point. I also say we're taping this. It's live right there, live to tape. Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. My dad and my father-in-law included. My son is now, I don't know if he's National Guard active. I don't know if it's counted as veteran. My son is Veterans Day to everyone out there. Thank you for your service. Now, I stopped there because that was halfway point. Usually, after class 3A, you have 2 classes to go, but we have 3 classes to go there, right? We have 3 groups. So let's talk about 4A. And I know the upstate is Tyler's area is going to come in heavy in this conversation right here, but we'll begin jumping anywhere you want to. 4A, I know Westside is the defending champions. Daniel's up there now, and I've been hearing. I'm sorry, Northwestern's 5A, but we've been hearing some other schools around the state that may be sneaking around and not maybe undercovered. At the very end, let's talk 4A real quick. Cutter Woods, Gamecock commit. Is anybody going to topple Westside? Jump in there.
I'll go first again. I think that's gonna be a very tough road for somebody to knock off Westside. Up in Tyler's way, they got South Point. I think we're looking towards the third round game, maybe against Daniel. That's gonna be something special if we do get that one. And then the winner obviously is gonna have to go to Westside. So that's gonna be a tough road for anybody to go up into Anderson County and beat that Westside team. Not only did they have Cutter Woods, they got some playmakers all over the field. So I didn't know much about Westside going into that championship game last year, but I learned pretty quick that they were pretty damn good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I hate that I missed that game because that game would have meant a lot to me. My late father-in-law was a lifelong Westside fan, and I would have loved to have called that game because I know the whole time I was watching, but he passed away. He did get to see his boys win a championship up there, but that game was really what I heard from them and South Far was one of the best games of the weekend last year. Went down to the very final minute or so, and I missed that was one of my games off. But again, Daniel knows how to do in the postseason is win now. I know it's 3A, but they know how to play some November and December football now.
They do. You're right. And they won the 3A last year. So
3 out of the last 4 years, right?
Yeah, that's no slouch team. And so I'll be honest. We got some guys in the upper state. I might have to fight them about going to Westside and Daniel if they play each other, but that's going to be something special if we can get that matchup in the playoffs.
Yeah, in terms of that point about the upper state, when it comes to the Daniel, like you said, you don't sleep on the Lions. I mean, this is a team 9-1 this year, but then you look at the lower state. To me, is basically the road goes through Kellytown. I mean, talking about Hartsfield.
Blast from the past, right? Blast from the past.
Yeah, Hartsfield right now. I mean, the way that, in fact, it may not leave Darlington County because they could potentially end up playing a couple of county rivals or local rivals in the second and third round.
Right.
So, and they have home field as well. So you look at this Hartsfield team, particularly a guy, Demarion Cole. I mean, this guy, he's just real special. He's one of those special guys where if he gets the football anywhere on the field, he's just going to do something with it. And that's on both sides of the ball.
Yes, well said. Was Tyler, you got thoughts on this 4A as far as other than Westside and Daniel that we kind of know about? Who do you got?
Yeah, so being up where I am, I've got to stick up for the South Point Stallions, and I'm going to say it. West Side does not see a team like South Point. They haven't seen one like them all year. A team that plays physical, a team that smacks you in the mouth, a team with a passer in Cameron McMillan who could be a Cutter Woods next year. He's only a junior, sensational passer. He's only played half a season, but he's been phenomenal. You got a 1,000-yard rusher, Mason Pickett-Hicks. You got a great offensive line. On one side, you got a guy going to USC. On another side, you got a guy going to North Carolina Central. So defense is as good as I've seen next to Northwestern, which we'll get to in a little bit. So I really think the matchup between South Point and Daniel, if we get to that point, that is going to be a sight to see. And whoever wins that one, of course, will probably play West Side. And to your state, Hartsville beat the brakes off South Florence ago. They have to play somebody in one season. That's going to be a game of Hartsville and South Florence. Possibly play again this season.
Audio's going in and out a little bit. I think we got your point, but I think that it went in and out a little bit again, Tyler. I'm sorry about it. I don't know what that was, but yeah, we got it. So Hartsville, I agree. Kellytown's a tough place to play. You don't want to go there on a Friday night the whole time. They roll the sidewalks up literally, and you can't get another person in there when they have a good team.
They will lock you in the stadium too, Stacy.
Yeah.
That's happened to me in Kellytown.
Tyler and I did a softball championship game in Hartsville as well. They love their sports in Hartsville, but I actually played in the Jamboree back in the day against the Corey Miller, Billy Blakeney. Billy Blakeney played quarterback at Wingate, and we know what Corey did, but the Central Pages, we played a half against them in Kellytown, and we asked them to they felt like they locked us on the field. We was trying to get off the field. We were ready to go. And 2 quarters was too long. 2 quarters was way too long. Like, okay, so no, we got it. They're better than us. Hey, God, we don't need all this time. to prove that point. But they were really good. But so I agree with everything. I think this is one of those years, though, right? Hartsville's been kind of lying around in the weeds, right? And then maybe time for them to stand up and roar. And again, you get them in any one game scenario. That's always a physical program. They can beat you down. You never know, what can happen. But I think West Side of Daniel might be the upstate might be the darlings of the 4A at this time.
Yeah, well, one other team in the lower state that could actually potentially do something, and they've been sort of quiet, is North Augusta. North Augusta is a team that's 9-1. Their only loss was to Lexington in a game where if they had the right place kicker at the time, they would have probably won that game as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you get stopped at a 4th and goal at the 1 yard line and just need 3 points or more.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, you got a guy in Michael Doe. This is a guy, he's been like a spectacular running back for this guy, particularly the last 3 games. He's had almost over 1,000 yards in his last 4 games.
Wow.
Corey Tillman at quarterback and senior. This is a guy who makes plays. They have their tribal receiver back in Connor Brown, but in particularly up front on defense, they are real salty. They have a couple of sophomores up front, particularly one guy,
young boys,
Menace, who is just a beast.
He's a menace. He's a menace.
Yes.
So listen, Chris got I want to say one thing. I teased you up for South Point. I saw a vicious argument on Facebook earlier today, and somebody was saying West Side doesn't want to see South Point, and they were going in all afternoon on Facebook, and that's why I knew South Point would be brought up at some point. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Chris, you had a point.
I do, and I don't think we can leave out a 4A without mentioning the Gray Collegiate situation.
Right.
Because if they win their appeal tomorrow afternoon, the 4A lower states bracket's going to change a little bit.
Absolutely.
They beat North Augusta on Friday night and played a 2017 game. It was very close. Went down to the wire. So we can't get out of here without mentioning that, they have a hearing tomorrow about maybe being reinstated into the playoffs.
So 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Yep.
2 o'clock decision. So we're going to leave 4A right there unless anybody has any final thoughts. We'll move on to one of our 2 5A divisions. Again, they didn't ask. Had they asked me, I would. Is 6A a possibility, or just add more teams in 4A? I don't know, but a lot of us came through this media thing, and we knew when it was 7 championship games. Now I didn't mind because that's extra paychecks if you work in those games, right? That's good. But I didn't, it was 2 championship 1A, 2 champions in 2A, 2 in 4A, and 1 in 3A, which none of that made sense to me, right? I mean, just didn't. So now I thought we were finally tracking with 5 championships for 5 divisions. I think the splitting it up to me is a little problematic, and that's another whole conversation. But let's begin with what they're going to call, and this right here is an insult in the title, Little 5A. Right. So let's talk about Little Division 2, Little 5A, which these teams are a lot of really, really good teams, right? Who do y'all have? I think Irmo is going to have a lot to say about Little 5A. What do y'all have?
This is another one, Stacy. I think just like Class A, if we don't see Northwestern and Irmo in the championship game, I think there's going to be a lot of people surprised.
Right. And disappointed probably because I think that's a collision. I think that would be a great game.
Definitely.
Tyler, I want you to go last on this. Thomas, who you like? I say Irmo. I think everybody says Irmo Northwestern. Who else do you have?
I think Irmo probably has their road is probably going to be is a little more much manageable. I mean, in fact, potentially they could end up facing in the 3rd round a Myrtle Beach team they've beaten the last 2 times they played them. That includes last year's playoffs. With Aaron Brand and also Donovan Murph. This is the team, if they showed this past Friday, if they're not one of the 2 best teams in the state, you're just going to find out, who is. But, on that side of the lower state, I think it's theirs to lose. And then you look at Division 2. Of course, people think it's Northwestern, but of course, there are probably 2 teams who could end up maybe stubbing their toe. One, you have to look at Gaffney. The way they're going to have home field, at least through to the upper state final, when we all know what it's like to try to play at Gaffney. And you know what happens with Gaffney, a lot of times Gaffney things seem to happen. Whoever they're playing.
Right.
So, and then also I look at it, potentially you have a team that a Riverside team. Their record may not indicate it, but this is a team that had some wins earlier this year. In fact, the team they're playing in the 1st round, Greenville, is a team they beat during the regular season.
Okay.
And there potentially could have a third round matchup with Northwest, or for that matter, against Northwestern, which that will make things interesting as well to see who could possibly end up playing Gaffney.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Talk to me about Northwestern, man. You talked about me to me early in the season. I've been hearing them. Big Charles Ridgeview right here down by my house over here. They beat up on a lot of people. I hear the offense is one of the best they've had in maybe a decade. Talk to me about Northwestern and what do they bring to the table?
So the storyline that most people see the headlines is the offense putting up a ton of points for Northwestern, but this is one of the best defenses I've seen in high school football get after the passer. And, for all that's being said, I've mentioned the great senior class of quarterbacks. I mentioned, you guys talked about Brand and Irmo, which I watched that Dutch Fork Irmo game that Stacy and Joe Cashin broadcasted. And, Tom Knotts called him Superman. said he was one of the best quarterbacks that he had seen during his time with Dutch Fork. And he's absolutely right. Yeah. But this Northwestern team is more of a machine. And I think it's the best team that they've had in the last 4 years. That's better than the team that lost to South Florida State Championship. That's better than the teams that made deep runs in the postseason and were upset. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Better than the team that had Turbo Richard and the Elijah Caldwells, guys that have gone on to play D1. This team just gets it. And boy, do they get after the passer. I think Northwestern, if they are not in the state championship, it is a disappointment. But I'm going to tell you, I heard you guys talking about
we're losing you. Move around a little bit. We're losing you a little bit, Tyler. Move around. Move.
You got me now?
We lost you a little bit. The last couple of things. Yeah, say it again. The last couple of sentences, we lost you for a minute.
Well, I was just going to say I watched the highlights of Gaffney. I watched the highlights of Gaffney and Spartanburg, and that 6'5" wide receiver for Gaffney is going to be a problem for anybody who faces him in the postseason.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, and they had a 6'5" quarterback too, by the way.
Yeah.
To them. They are talented. And I wonder, the good thing about doing a game every week is I love to do it and I get the focus. But the other thing is I don't really, I get the highlights and the scores. I don't really know a lot about Gaffney other than the fact they play a lot of games that seem lower scoring than I expected them to be. Considering the talent that I'm told they have, like Tom says, things seem to happen strange in the game. They had a 6-3 game the other week or something. I mean, it seems like the sum is, the total of the parts is the sum is a little bit less than you would think they'd be with all the parts they have. So I'm wondering, would they catch fire in the playoffs maybe and start really, because they have talent. We know that. They always do on both sides of the ball. So Gaffney is a team you have to really respect, regardless of how they come into the playoffs. You got to respect them, especially. I mean, we know on their field their problem, but you got to respect Gaffney. They travel well too. So that's what they call so-called little Division II. They're gonna call it little 5A, right? So we have Irmo, Northwestern mentioned, Gaffney mentioned. Thomas, you mentioned some teams. If I give y'all one word again around the horn, we'll start with you, Tyler. Right now, if you don't want to pick the winner, tell me who you think plays for the 5A Division II title. Give me at least a team or two, real quick. Who you got?
I think a lot of people are going to say, now we're still at small 5A or big 5A?
5A, small 5A, small 5A.
Small 5A. Yeah. Obviously I'm going to hang my hat on Northwestern, and I really like what I saw out of Irmo. Even in a loss, I like what I saw out of Irmo. But Stacy, I'm with you. If it's not Northwestern on the other side of the bracket, I think it's Gaffney.
Okay, there you go. I think we agree with that. Thomas, who you got?
Yeah, same thing in terms of really Northwestern is theirs to lose. The same thing with Irmo. And like you said, I mean, if Gaffney things happen in that matchup with Northwestern, that would probably be the only way I could see Northwestern not getting to Orangeburg.
Right.
So, yeah, it's really one of those three teams. Although, like I said, a Riverside team that's played a couple of those teams could make things interesting in those couple of interesting first or second rounds.
Good stuff. Quickly, who you got quickly, Chris, during playing the championship game in Division II 5A, little 5A?
Again, I'm hanging my hat on Northwestern and Irmo. One thing I will mention, and Tyler sort of hit on this, does Northwestern have that monkey on their back that they get beat in the playoffs, that they've been a favorite before?
Yes.
And they get over that hump. I mentioned this, I think, with you before, Stacy. Their coach, I played for his dad in high school.
Okay.
So, Paige Walford, I've known him probably since he was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. I remember him running around the field when we were practicing. So great football mind, but he's got to go out there and win one. And this seems like the year. But again, I'm not betting. I never bet against Tom Knotts. I learned that a long time ago. He proved something to me one time. I picked against him in the paper, and he talked about it as soon as I got to the stadium. So I don't pick against Tom Knotts anymore. And I'm not picking against Irmo and Aaron Brand and AJ Brand after what I saw on Friday. They only dress out about 33 kids, 33 kids, and those 32 or 33 can flat out play.
No doubt. So they call it the Dirty 30. That's his name for him. Manapool mentioned that on the sides. I saw that report. They had 33. The player that was in question. And I talked to Aaron Brand Friday on the phone. He's my buddy. I full transparency. Aaron's my guy. We talk about life. We've got to be really cool over the years. So I won't tell you exactly everything he said about. One thing he said was he felt like he was defending himself from RICO charges the way he was in court. He said it was way over the top. But that's not. He said a lot of other things too. But so what he did was the 33rd player. He just said, you know what? We're not even getting caught up in it. You sit over there. He didn't dress him out because he didn't want any. So he played with 32. And you're right. And according to Amanda's report, I didn't count. Dutch Fork dressed out 80. So there may be a difference between Big 5A. So that being said, Aaron Brand to me was the best player on that field, the best win player on the field.
Dutch Fork dressed out 80?
That's what Amanda said. They dressed that because what he's been doing toward the end of the season, he brings most of the JV up.
Wow.
In anticipation of blowing people out, though. So So he played. The idea is to blow out people and put them in. But so once you did the first 2 games, he did it. And he went ahead and did it. The last guy, I don't think they thought they'd blow Irmo out, but he did it some games down the stretch. So I think he just let them get the experience. So that being said, I think we all agree on what 5A Division 2 is going to look like. Now for the big joker. Save it for last. We're down the back stretch of the show. Timeout Convos, Stacey Huff. Glad to have Thomas Grant, Tyler Cupp, and Chris Deering with us. We're going to do Big 5A, and then after that, just to let you guys know, after we do that, I'm going to go around the horn and ask you for your most memorable team or player you saw this year, and we'll sign off after that. So Big 5A Division 1, the conversation begins and probably ends with Dutch Fork, right? But there's some intrigue there because this man, Tom Knotts, is 8-3 in championship games. He has a season worth of championship appearances. He's 8-3. He's 8-3. So they got to be the favorite, right? But what could possibly happen? I know Somerville's out there. What could happen to keep Tom Knotts from getting a 9th chip?
I'm going to go with another team.
The way the bracket is set up, it's.
Go ahead. I think Chris was go ahead, Chris.
Oh,
you go ahead.
I'm going with another team in the lower state. I like Sumter. This team is sort of, again, they've gone into the playoffs before. They've been favorites and they hadn't gotten there. They got to get over that. But man, this team's averaging 49 points a game, and probably could be higher than that if they kept their guys in the full time. But Franklin Richardson at quarterback, John Peoples is. We know the rich history of Sumter, and John Peoples is probably going to lead that program as the all-time leading rusher, all-time leading touchdown scorer.
He's legit.
And just that's pretty big. And they got another kid in Cam Fortune that's really good. So I like this Sumter team, and we hadn't even talked about their defense. Anthony Addison's going to South Carolina, defensive end.
Yes.
And they had a kid transfer from the Skeeza school, Jeremiah Burson, who's really good. I saw him in the state championship last year. He transferred to Sumter, and man, that kid can play. He can play anywhere. So I like this Sumter team. I know everybody's circling Somerville and Dutch Fork. I'm going with Sumter and Dutch Fork in the championship game.
Thomas, who do you see? Challenging Dutch Fork in the championship game?
Well, when you come looking at the lower state, you talked about that Somerville-Sumter matchup. That's an interesting case where, like you said, with Sumter, defensively, as much as they've been stout defensively, and they sort of have a monkey on their back. Unfortunately, it's been green and white in terms of Dutch Fork. That's the one mountain they've just not been able to get past. Whether they get that this year or not, and then you have a Somerville team. It's interesting. You see a team that's quietly gone 10-0, but they've sort of just gone about their business. And of course, they went to the lower state final last year, and it ended up losing at White Knoll. So when it comes to Dutch Fork, it's also going to be like a trip down memory lane for the most part, because second round, because they have the first round bye, they'll meet a River Bluff team that they faced during the regular season, and then awaiting them
2 weeks ago.
and then awaiting them would then be a matchup with in the upper state final will be either Spartanburg or another rematch from last year's upper state final against JL Mann, which we all know it took. They had to score 10 points in the final 2 minutes to win that game.
Yeah.
So the road, like you said, the road is set up, and you talk about with Dutch Fork. Here's a couple of other numbers with them. They're 15-0 in the first round under Tom Knotts, and then when they get to the upper or lower state finals, they're 11-0. So if you don't get them in between the second, third round, or if you somehow get them in the final, you're not going to get them either early or late. So the way it's set up.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Tyler?
First off, I love Thomas Grant because he's the Tom Knott statistician. I just absolutely love it.
He absolutely has a he's a good.
Anytime I need some Dutch Fork numbers, I just head over to his Twitter account.
He has the skinny for sure.
But no, I'm with all the guys. I mean, you can call this the Dutch Fork Invitational. This team appears to be special yet again. They are so good up front on the defensive line. They're so athletic in the secondary. I love what I saw out of their running back. I mean, Offing isn't the best throwing downfield, but he makes so many good decisions running the football as well. So, Dutch Fork for me. And I love what Chris Deering said about Sumter, man. Sumter has kind of been quiet about this, and we very well could see, what was it, Chris? 2013 Dutch Fork against Sumter. It was that Reggie Kennedy team that started 1-4, 1-5, something like that.
Yeah,
Matthew Colburn was on that team.
Yeah, 1-4.
Yeah. I think we could have a rematch of Sumter and Dutch Fork.
Kennedy's my guy. And by the way, Tyler, I've said, I'm probably the guy that I've done all of Dutch Fork's championship games, I think, but maybe 2 of them. I did all 3 of the losses, so maybe that's why Coach Knotts didn't call me back as fast as he once did. But I've called it the Dutch Fork Invitational on air, and I've been informed that everybody doesn't like that. And my answer to that is beat them then.
Yeah, right.
I'll stop calling that when you beat them. When they're 8-3, it's the Dutch Fork Invitation. So I'm going to say that, and I'm doing that game. I got my assignments. I will be doing that game at 2:00 on Friday or whatever. Yeah, Friday, and Oliver C. Dawson Bulldog Stadium. I'll be doing that game, and I'm going to call it the Dutch Fork Invitational again. And all you got to do is beat them. All you got to do is beat them, and I promise to stop saying it. But back to Somerville now. They had a game that went down to the last play. Was it Ashley Ridge? They had a game that went out to the last play this year. So
I think actually was overtime.
Yeah, overtime. Right, it went out to the right, and it went to, and so it was the last. So they've had some stumbling blocks, but they're good. They have skill positions. They have the trench players. So I think from what I'm hearing, the Somerville game in the lower state might be that might be the game.
That's gonna be a good one. I think so. Yeah. I've seen Somerville this year. They do have one of their playmakers is out. The Washington kid is out for the rest of the year, from my understanding.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So that's gonna be a big blow to them. But they still have talent. Jaden Cummings at quarterback. The wide receiver, he's really good. His name escapes me right now. Murray Kelly, and then they have a good running back. I think it's a sophomore. So they're loaded. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're quite as strong on defense as a lot of these other teams we've talked about. And I think that's gonna be the difference when they play Sumter.
Dutch Fork of the field, around the horn. Literally this time, one word answer. Dutch Fork of the field. Thomas, Dutch Fork of the field. One of those two. One word.
There's going to be Dutch Fork. I mean,
Tyler, one word. Dutch Fork of the field. One word.
Dutch Fork.
Chris.
Dutch Fork.
Dutch Fork. It is unanimous. And now all they got to do is finish it out. Last year was a year to get them. And I think, by the way, before we move to this next, our last topic of the day, and I'll let you all get on with your wonderful Monday evening. Last thing I'll say this. As I understand it, next year's team for Dutch Fork, they're expected to be much better than this year.
Ooh.
The next quarterback up after who the next quarterback up after Offing is at Dutch Fork. And Chris, I'm sure you know, is Tom Knott's son. Tom Knotts has a son coming up as a quarterback.
So he did not dress out Friday night. I hadn't figured that one out yet.
Okay. But yeah, I thought he was going to play anyway. But I think he might be next up. picture that when Knox got here, went to his first championship game. I remember during that game, the kids were running around on the field, throwing the ball around, and he's done raised up a quarterback that's going to end up, So that shows it's been dynastic, the run. So I think we all agree that's what it's going to be. If something else happens, then you know what? I love about sports is what we don't know. So if Dutch Fork loses, that means we had a classic, right?
That's right.
I did the Gaffney game. I did the Gaffney game when the Gaffney folks showed up 5 hours before the game at Benedict Stadium and grilled out like it was an NFL playoff game. And they came in and they beat, Antonio Williams was banged up that game, but it doesn't matter. They beat Dutch Fork in that game. I played them. I appointed them. So now, fourth and final, we'll go around the horn. In a synopsis in a few sentences or less, each one of you, and we'll begin with you, Tyler Cup. What's a player or team you saw that stuck out as just memorable or made the biggest impact on you in the regular season of 2024? Knowing we have more drama yet to come, that's what we love about this. But player or team that stuck out, you impressed you the most this year?
I'm going to go Northwestern. The way they control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the field, defensive and offensive line. They got a star in the making on defense who could be a Gamecock before it's all said and done. They've got a great defensive front. Finley Polk at quarterback, maybe not the name that, is with the Brands and with the Offings and with the Cutter Woods, but Finley Polk is as good as there is in the state of South Carolina. And Cameron Vance, a star to watch. He's also a junior. He'll be back next year, a star wide receiver to watch. So for me, it's Northwestern, just a complete unit and really fun to watch this year.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thomas Grant, are you there? Let's see Thomas. Thomas.
Yeah, I'm back.
Thomas on the screen. There is. All right. Thomas Grant, Chris, you're going to bet.
Yeah, I'm back.
Not necessarily clean. You go back in the 3-hole. I'll back clean up on this one. Thomas Grant, yeah. What person or team, what player or team impressed you or left the biggest impact with you in 2024 regular season? You there, Thomas?
I lost him again. Oh, there he is.
Thomas, you there? Oh.
See, I would say when you talk to
you go in and out. I feel like I'm in a disco. I'm in a nightclub. I'm in a club back in the day.
You gotta love T. Grant.
Okay, Chris, you answer the question. Best, what stuck out to you or made the biggest impression on you? Individual, player, or team?
So I'm gonna have to answer that in a twofold way. Friday night was special. That's the biggest crowd I've ever seen at Dutch Fork. It was a great atmosphere. It was two high caliber teams, and that was special just to be there and to witness that. So obviously Dutch Fork and Irmo was right there, but I hadn't been to Batesburg, Leesville in a number of years, and I got to go back there this year, and I actually saw them twice. I saw them early in the year against Lower Richland. Then I saw them a couple weeks ago against Saluda. It's good to see Batesburg back being a contender and somebody that people have to worry about. Their running back, Amadre Wooden, he's a bruiser. He's gonna run right at you. He's not gonna run around you. He's gonna run over you. Watching him is a lot of fun, and that defense is really good. Love to watch that defense play, and they held Saluda to 7 points. I think they held Lower Richland to 7 points tonight. They might even actually shut out Lower Richland. So that's just a really talented team, and just good to see them back among the state's elite.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thomas Grant. Tom's like a strobe light going. We got the
strobe light going still.
Strobe light going. Player or team that impressed you the most?
Okay. Well, I guess in terms of teams impressed, I would have to say still with the Dutch Fork, but sticking on that same theme, particular one kid, Elgin Sessions on defense.
Yeah.
This is a guy. Yeah. You look at the teams they face, and the players that he's had to go against at the wide receiver position. Starting with guys like a Jordan Gidron, who's headed South Carolina to it, Donovan Murph. And you look at the success the guy has had against those guys. He's literally just I call him the glove now, because he's just one of those guys you just put him on someone and he's just going to contain he single-handedly contains that entire secondary when it comes to Dutch Fork and on a secondary that has quite a few more talented players, but he's just a guy that stands out more than anyone.
Okay, no doubt, no doubt. Good stuff. Two things for me, and I'll let you guys go, and then I'll let you guys plug how they can, once again, everybody can get in touch with you or follow your work. Two things. Homecoming at Fairfield Central was something I had never experienced it before. Homecoming at Fairfield Central was interesting. Coach Davis, those guys really had a big scene out there, and the running back, and I forgot his, I'm blacking on his name. And the tailback they made the Shrine Bowl for Fairfield Central. He may be the biggest. He may be the most impressive individual performance I saw him running for about 240 on our airwaves.
Talking about
He was a grown man. Tydarian Greer. Thank you very much. That, and then the scene at Dutch Fork when I looked out, I took a picture of it. I may have posted it, but the parking lot, the street, people parking down the street. Dutch Fork didn't travel. He was, quietly kept, not a well-kept secret or a secret. All these championships, they don't really have the following that you would think they'd have. And I've heard that from people there. Friday, they were like, this should be like this every week. And, people were saying that from Dutch Fork, the parents of players. And for what they've done, they don't really get it like that. They've had some other big matchups. And I've never seen that before. But that was the electricity in that crowd this past Friday night. And by the way, we set records on stream for Watch Fox folks. When I streamed YouTube and Facebook, about 25,000. Just
I was
not
watching
TV. That's just on the that Todd showed us. And I was getting texts from Matt Quinn. I was getting people from Chesterfield, people from all. I was getting stuff hit from everybody, man. It was great. It was great to be a part of it. The quarterback that played at White Knoll that went play at Miami of Ohio, Evian.
Evian Smith. Yeah.
He texted me. Can you give me a shout out? So, but people listen all over the place, man. Jarvis Green, the Clemson running back, his dad texted me for like Jarvis and his teammates are gathered around. They want to see where they can watch it. Because Jarvis still loves Dutch Fork. So those are the moments that stood out to me. Around the horn, real quick. How can we read your stuff that you got up there? Tell them how to go to your website, Thomas.
Okay, like I said, through Twitter, it's Junebug New York, where you can link on to where some of my writings are at Prep Red Zone at prepredzone.com. And then you can also look at me at the Irmo News, who has a website, Casey West Columbia News, Northeast News, and also Lake Murray News as well. We also have a new paper with the New Chapin News that is running on. You can get that through Facebook as well.
Good stuff. Tyler Cup.
Yeah, Teacup Radio on X, and for diehard football fans, you can download the WRHI app, and you've got 6 games at your disposal you can listen to this Friday night. Awesome way to enjoy high school football.
Good stuff. Appreciate you, Tyler. Christopher Deering, how can we catch your stuff?
C Deering 82 on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And I'm gonna plug our website with Thomas. I don't know that you can go anywhere else in this state and get a preview of every playoff game from here to the state championships. I know Thomas posted one today. I posted one today. We have content going up the rest of the week. We will preview every South Carolina High School League playoff game, and that's just good content. That's where you need to go to get it. We got a free thing up there right now with the semifinalists for Player of the Year. Go check us out, and I think we're on the cutting edge of what high school sports is going to be evolving in the coverage.
Good stuff. Good stuff. My radio show, folks, you can catch me 10 o'clock every Saturday morning on makethepointradio.com. If you're following online, makethepointradio.com. Click on the listen button. On the radio station in the Midlands is 100.7 FM. In the Orangeburg area is 92.9 ESPN Orangeburg. Of course, that link takes you can have it on your phone everywhere you go. Makethepointradio.com. 10 to 11 o'clock each and every Saturday morning to watch Fox stuff. We'll be doing the championship games. I'm doing 3 games. I know 5A is one of them. It'll be the Dutch Fork Invitational game. I think I'm doing the 2A and maybe the 3A as well, but I hadn't double-checked that. But watch all the championship games, no matter who's doing them. Watch all of the games. Support these youngsters, these scholar athletes, and support these gentlemen and ladies out here who are doing great work in the media, giving light and love to these youngsters who are doing good things out there. Shout out to Lost Letterman. It's Timeout Convos with Stacey Huff and HoughNation Sports Zone, and I appreciate all y'all tuning in. Thank you guys for spending some time tonight and sharing your knowledge with the audience out there. Thank everybody for tuning in. Y'all have a great one, and we out till next time on Timeout Convos with HoughNation Sports. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night.
Later, guys.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate y'all, man. I'll see y'all on the route, man.
All right.
We good, Todd? We can't hear you.
What you got, Ty?
He said something.
I said, great job, man.
Oh,
you
thank
guys are fantastic.
No, man, see them guys. I let them guys carry me. See, I'm getting old. I let the young boys carry me. Let them guys carry me, man. I'm getting old. I got to let them carry me now.
We're taking people behind the scenes. We're taking people
I'm the
behind
elder
the scenes.
statesman here, Stacy.
Huh?
I'm still the elder statesman here.
No, I got you, man. I'm January 85, 67. You 2
Oh,
years
you do have me a little bit.
Man, I'm old, bro. Look at yourself, man. Listen, all these every gray hair is a story. Y'all ain't ready for these stories. Yeah, that's a book I'm gonna write when I really want to get rich. I'm gonna write a book about all these gray hairs, right? So this is good stuff, man.
Hey, thanks again, and man, you guys definitely enjoy the playoffs, man. I know
it's gonna be fun, man.
It's
a lot of fun.
It's gonna be great, man. Yeah. Hey, I tell these people that I gotta cut this thing off, but these athletic directors and football coaches, they need to get some legal advice too nowadays, man. It seems like they spend more time in the courtroom than they do it.
Look, dun 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 dun.
Hey, that's what Aaron said last week too. You didn't want to be back in front of that high school league.
Briefcase.
You might want to get your JD before you get your high school.
This is paralegal papers. Man, let me get out of